Hello, good evening, and welcome to UpFront. Now, from today, risk not being able to open a bank account, apply for driver's license or a passport if you don't have what they call the tax identification number. But that's not all. You'll also not be able to file cases in the court or register a parcel of land. Well, this according to the Ghana Revenue Authority, which has been announcing the full implementation of the policy aimed at broadening the tax net and roping in those largely between the informal and semi-formal sector in a way that's supposed to make sense to every other person. My guest today is the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority. Later on in the show, we shall also be looking at the U.S. agreement with Ghana on military cooperation with one group that's not been heard of, the clergy. But first, let's understand what's happening now, if we get the chance to do so right away. My guest at the City Tell You is the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Emmanuel Kofi. Commissioner General, you're welcome to UpFront.
Thank you.
I hope you're doing well, sir.
God has been good to us.
Okay, so first and foremost, why now? Why introduce a tax identification number, TIN as you call it, and make it very much compulsory for the existence of virtually every Ghanaian's operations and everything?
Raymond, this is not a new introduction. It is something which has been there for some time now. And it's been given legal force that backs it. It's not a proposal from the Ghana Revenue Authority. It's in our Act. The Revenue Administration Act, Act 915, it expressed explicitly in it that sections 11 to 15 covers the TIN for operations. And then the first schedule of the Act allows the institutions that have to apply the TIN in the transactions that they have with outsiders. So it's not a proposal from the GRA, it's a legal requirement that we are enforcing.
Okay,
yes.
So the idea we are told is to broaden the tax net. Is there any alternative way of doing this without having to hugely inconvenience people because of the 13 major areas that it covers in this case?
No, it's not an inconveniencing thing. One of the strengths of the very good tax administration systems is taxpayer identification. And you go to the place like the United States, you go to the place like the United Kingdom, the strength of the tax administration is in being able to identify the taxpayer. And so the legal people thought it wise that we embody it within our body, within the body of our laws. And so we have it within the Revenue Administration Act 915, and the requirement is that you have to have the TIN before you have interaction with them. Because they are service providers, and mind those service providers are enabled by the revenue that's generated for them to provide a service to you. The courts have to be fixed, the judges have to be paid, the DVLA staff, they have to be paid. All those people rendering services for the benefit of the very people whom we are asking to be identified. So taxpayer identification is to broaden the tax net and to capture as many of our potential taxpayers as far as possible. Let them to play the role that they need to play their civic responsibility.
Okay, but my question was, are there other alternatives to having just a tax identification number? And really, how do you conclude that merely having a tax identification number means you're going to be paying taxes?
Having tax identification number is not specifically to say you are going to pay tax. We are using it to identify potential taxpayers. Somebody can be unemployed today, but in a year's time, he may be a major employer. And so we having the database of all potential taxpayers is key to the work that we do at the GRA level. And so it is necessary to have it. Okay. You talk of other alternatives. Yeah. But this, for me, is one of the best means to reaching out to the taxpayers and the potential taxpayers.
To be fair, if this was such a laudable idea, why not make it the one that people can choose to go for or not go for it? Why tie it to the provision of other services?
Paying tax is a civic responsibility. it is not at the leisure of the citizenry. The citizenry have to live up to their social responsibility and their civic responsibility. And the taxpayer identification is a way to reach them to live up to their both social and civic responsibility. So it's not something for a bargain.
Okay, I get your point. Now, how do you justify this to the guy who says that, on one hand, we had the vice president say that everybody's going to get a bank account. On the other hand, government says that we want to make doing business very easy for everybody because we are tumbling on the ease of doing business ranking. Then comes in a procedure which is supposed to make me go through another process before I get first the bank account, and to these business people actually worsen their ease of doing business status.
When you say it worsens their ease of doing business status, I just don't get it.
Because they say it's difficult to get it in the first place.
We have to have an accountable society. And it appears that some of you strong people appear to, ginger the perspective of unaccountability, non-accountability. We need to have a society that is accountable. Those doing the very best in the doing business perspective, go to the Finland and then the Scandinavia, and they are all been identified into the taxpayer system.
Okay.
To identify people into the taxpayer system cannot be seen as cumbersome, cannot be seen as constraining ability to do business. It cannot be seen in the negative sense. It's a way to get people to register to be part of the taxpayer population that the GRA works with. And mind you, the honors of the GRA is to create revenue for the state.
I have a fundamental right to access the courts. I have a right to justice. There is another criteria which is making my right to justice being hampered in this case. That is the identification, what they call it, the tax.
No, you see, the issue is this. If fulfilling your duty to being identified as a taxpayer comes at a cost, then you have an argument. It doesn't come at a cost. It is free.
You don't consider the
nobody's.
You don't consider the time cost.
Hold it.
You don't consider the time cost.
No, I don't see.
Time is money.
Yes, the time. It's temporary now. We are having a system where a lot of our people are not paying tax, and we are designing a system that would broaden the tax net.
How many people are paying tax now?
We are having a system that will broaden the tax net.
Yes.
And get more people to pay tax, and then the state can have revenue. The state wouldn't have to go out there and borrow, and so that the revenue that we generate, we don't use more than a third to service interest on our loans. We are able to be self-dependent, and then we wouldn't need to borrow, and then the government wouldn't need to restrain the private sector and crowd out the private sector when it comes to the borrowing requirements, and therefore the interest rates can come down and businesses can be competitive. What are we saying? What we are saying that the end objective is all of this is that when we get the mass of our people paying their tax, it will release out the stress and the pressure on the states.
How many people are paying tax now?
For the whole country.
How many people are paying tax now?
Now, we would say something to the range of around 1.5 million people are paying tax.
How many of them are in the informal sector?
In the informal sector, I can't put the number to it.
What percentage of the 1.5 is in
the 1.5 million we are paying the tax. There are a lot of them in the payee sector. When you take those in the formal sector receiving incomes from the payee deductions, they are around 1.3 million. So that basically we're saying that the 200. But the informal sector, the very people we are talking of, they are the very people who are using the instruments that we are saying that, look, before you use those instruments that the state offers you, you must be in the tax net. So they are using, these are the very people in the informal sector who have enjoyed being in the tax net and are basically building the houses, buying properties, and assessing the passports and having their driving license and the rest. And we are saying that before they can have access to those things, they must live up to their civic responsibility. And we are seeing that.
I get your point.
Raymond, you are surprising me.
I get your point, but the question I'm asking in this case is that where can anybody get this thing? Where?
There's a lot of assistance in the GRA offices. The GRA offices are
every
ready.
GRA office?
Yes, the GRA offices, the people are ready.
How long would it take me to get one?
The maximum it will take you is between 48 to 72 hours. Within a matter of 2-3 days, you should have it. And I mean, that's the worst case scenario. But in hours, you can have it.
Are there examples where people got it?
Raymond, you came to me at the GRA, and I know the very day that you came, you had your 10 for. Am I lying?
Yes, because probably I got special help.
No, it's not a special thing.
Is that every other person will go to this process?
Go to them. I didn't follow you to them.
Yes,
but you had it in a day. And I want to say that the thing can be had in a day, a maximum 3 days.
Those without any form of identification, national ID, and any of them, how did they get this thing?
Thing is having identification and being identified.
Yeah.
And the means to having it is having a driving license, having a passport, and having electoral commission.
Yes, the voter's ID, yeah. My difficulty is that
and I want to tell you that when it comes to the voter's ID, basically more than 70%, 80% have the electoral ID.
I have no problems with that. I'm asking the question, if I don't have any of these IDs with me.
When you get to our offices, we have the instruction with the officers to come into the issues. And if there's justification to you and you have reasonably identified, the taxpayer identification number should be issued out to you.
How many people have this tax identification number today?
As we are speaking, we have 1,090,338. And our objective is to double that number and triple that number in the course of time. Within the very first 1 year, we are aiming at doubling the number.
Okay.
Yes.
How many people out of this 1,090,000 are actually paying tax today?
Majority are paying taxes. Majority
60,
of them.
70, 80?
Those with the tin paying taxes should be more than the 70%. Yes. I'm a numbers person, but putting the exact number to it, what I can say to it is that at least a minimum of 70% are taxpayers.
Okay, there's this question about what happens to kids in this case. Kids get passports.
Kids have their parents. Okay? And kids have a way of being identified. We use those instruments. The issue is not basically to register kids in the thing for now. The thing is basically for potential taxpayers. Those we know within a very short time will be within the taxpaying population.
Okay, so kids can be bypassed. They will use their parents' own.
The parents can assist them to have the thing, but the target is not the kids. The target is the potential taxpayers, those within range.
Do all districts have the, what they call it, your GRA offices, all districts?
Yes.
So everybody in every village can actually get access to these district offices?
When they walk in, they will have access to it and they will be enabled.
And they'll be enabled by who?
From the offices, they will give them all the support that they need to have their taxpayer identification number given to them.
What has been a response so far to this claim? Because we are told by some exporters and importers that they were not informed, it just came to them as a surprise, and they are hugely disabled from performing their duties.
That's very interesting. Those who are doing imports, as far as we know, those who are doing imports have TIN numbers. I mean, if you ever done imports and you're an importer, most of them have TIN numbers. And we did a lot of sensitization, a lot of stakeholder consultation.
Okay.
Yes, and it's amazing how people are turning around to say, oh, they weren't informed. It's the normal Ghanaian behavior, a lackadaisical attitude to things. That's how we do things in Ghana. We wait till the last minute and they wait and see, and some will be speculating that the thing may not even come on. So at the end of the day, they are caught flat-footed, and they will be using it to argue that, no.
So because of the massive response in the direction of uproar, are you likely to suspend full implementation?
What is the uproar?
Those who are saying
No.
Will they be given leeway?
No, the good thing I'm picking...
the
good thing, Raymond, the good thing I'm picking is that there has been massive response. People are beginning to go in and meet their civic responsibility. And so the officers are playing good roles now. There's attention to need the forms to sign. And mind you, this very week is a week that we're going to do a filing of our taxes. And on the Friday, the Excellency, the Vice President, will be filing his tax at the GRA offices. Ministers and other dignitaries will all be filing it. We are moving into a situation where tax filing will be a part of the Ghanaian society.
That's another very cumbersome, long process that people dread in their lives. You know that, right?
It's not a long, cumbersome process.
Oh, really?
What we have done at the GRA level is to simplify the form, make it convenient for people to file their taxes, and it's the way to go.
How many pages is the form?
The personal income tax form comes with 3 pages.
Okay.
Of not long things. When you take the notes and the explanations out, it comes to 3 pages.
To be fair,
and I want to tell you,
when you said simplify, I thought you were mentioning 1 page yearly.
Previously, for the payee, we have like 27 columns. We've been able to shorten it to 17 columns.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
And those are the areas we want to make tax paying very simple.
They say that even these, what they call it, implementation will not be as successful as you want it to be because the DVLA, for example, says you didn't really sit with them to gauge and structure how you're going to ably represent that particular way and implement it properly. There are other groupings who are also, because in the banks today, they are not demanding tax identification numbers.
Look, we have had stakeholder consultation with all these people. Okay. Just before coming, I had a chat with the executive secretary of the DVLA, the boss at the DVLA. I'll be having another meeting with him tomorrow and with his people. But then the issue is that we are only enforcing the law. It's not the GRA creating its policy and riding around with this policy. It's the law.
Oh,
and all the institutes which have been identified in the first schedule to the Act 915, the Revenue Administration Act, they are all duty bound to assist us achieve the objective.
So they don't have to wait for you to come and tell them what to do.
Basically, that is it. But then we have to offer the assistance because we are the major beneficiary when the thing is functioning. And it's also good for them.
Okay.
Well, we've had collaboration with the banks. Last Thursday, I had a meeting with the banks.
So,
and before then, we had a full day interaction with them. And they came in there with their rough edges. We have to tweak them out.
Are there sanctions for these institutions like DVLA, the banks, for refusing to insist on the TIN before they get me a bank account or anything related to that?
The law makes the issues very clear on it. I wouldn't want to.
Are there sanctions?
I believe there should be sanctions in the law.
That's interesting. Does it give them a space or time to do so, or?
The issue is the normal Ghanaian way of doing things.
But is there...
What we are seeking to do is to involve them in the transition. This is a transitional thing we are going through. But the end objective of it all is to make sure we end up with people meeting their tax obligations.
Okay, so in this case, I want to be clear in my mind on this particular one. The banks we are looking at today, do they have, let's say, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months to do this, or they have to implement it immediately?
No. The banks, as I've come to know them, want the goods of the state. And it's for that very reason they've come to have interactions with them. Nobody is giving them timelines specifically. But then collaboratively working in tandem with them, we will help each other to ensure that their client base is made up of taxpayers and potential taxpayers.
Earlier today, there were complaints that, I mean, to be fair, it takes some time to be able to fix this problem of online application. Is it working?
That one, we believe so. I mean, the online application can work up to a level.
Okay.
But then the person sitting behind the computer gives you an identification that this is my name, this is my number, this is my face. And when you zero in and you go into the Electoral Commission database and look at the face with this thing, you see a different face. So and it's different from, so the validation is stopped at that point. And that's why we say that for everybody, you use the online and you print, it will help facilitate the process at our end, so that the validation is made easier. So that we need to have the interaction, the facial interaction, and be able to really validate that you are the person who says you are.
There are those who are saying that this thing should be automatically generated so that it will be speedily done, so that I can verify later on. So, because we need it now in the numbers.
No, we know the type of country we have.
Interesting.
And we have the kind of new generation we have. And so the last thing I would want to do is to rush on some of these things. I know the new generation believe on instant this, instant that, instant coffee, instant milk, instant. But from where I'm coming from, I do not subscribe to that fully.
Oh.
Yes, because there are consequences that can be dire. At the GI level, we want people to pay the right taxes at the right time and in the right frame. So that we want to have the good relationship with the people that we deal with, and not to allow create gaps and loopholes that can be exploited to our disadvantage as a country.
Okay, now let me understand what the future plan for this is supposed to be. Is it always going to go this way? Has this thing come to stay for good? Or at some point it will be reviewed?
Nothing is going to be a part of our lives. We have to be able to be identified. Our activities have to be known. And with a thing, your activities can be known and measured and monitored and controlled. And so that the state can have its fair share of your activities and how you generate your revenue. So it's something that's going to be with us for the rest of our lives, I believe. And it's going to be subsumed under the people bringing the issue of the national ID and the rest.
Yes,
the
I was coming to that.
national ID is the father. The different things are the children in the home. Raymond, God's grace willing, you're going to have children. They are all going to be Amanfu. And when you have Ezekiel, Amanfu, Joshua Amanfu, Martha Amanfu, they will be in your house.
Yeah.
And yet you'll be the father. They will be in your household. All of these things are going to come under the national ID, the Ghana card. You will have a portal for snakes, have a portal for the thing, you have a portal for the driving license and the rest. So that when your name is keyed into the system, all about you will be known. That is what thrives in very well managed systems. And that's where we are heading to as a people.
So if you're going to have a national ID, as in right from the national, what they call it, ID system, which will have all of these elements a part of it, why do we need a tax identification number separately?
We don't need it separately. Because when you are coming to us, as far as we are concerned, we're dealing with you at different levels. And so until an ID rolls out entirely, we'll have the thing.
You are not hopeful that it will roll out immediately?
I'm a member of the NIA board, and I believe within months it's going to be rolled out. But then GRA, we need the money, and we need the money now. The vision that the president has is huge, and he needs money, and we can't delay the money. And then delaying the money comes at a cost. We don't want the state to bear cost.
But if you're a member of the board, then you should know the month you're going to do the NIA. Then you can sync it in nicely so that can work.
No. I'm managing GRA.
I get your point.
My objective is that I need the money to run the state's affairs. And it's my first priority and my first current call. And I'll have to live to it. And so that's where my focus is.
I get your point. I mean,
yes.
There's this other talk about the numbers and whether or not it should apply to me, an individual, Raymond Akwa, or it should also apply to a business I may own in this particular case. So would I need separate numbers?
Different people.
Oh, yes. Business
within the law, the business is a separate person. So you, Raymond Akwa, partnering with others will have your name within the registration of that company. The company will have its thing. But individually, as members of that company, your names will be in there. And so that is it. It's a separate body. And you as an individual, you are a separate person. And I mean, when we are doing the corporate tax, after the profit, you charge the 25%. But you, when it comes to you, there are ranges where you pay 0%, 5%, 10%. So we are two different people.
I get your point.
So get that straight.
So how many companies? Every company I set up will require a tin?
Every company registered to operate in the country must have a tin.
How about if I have a conglomerate with several subsidiaries?
The subsidiary, to the extent that they are separate companies, must have their own tin.
Well, that will be cumbersome.
Why will it be cumbersome?
So big enterprises will have...
Note, Raymond, God willing, you are a prosperous person.
Yes.
And you have a holding company. And within apart from the holding company, you have like 5 subsidiary companies. And each of the subsidiary companies is having a turnover of about $1 million. And we are saying that we shouldn't be able to look at the activities individually. We have to be able to look at the activities individually and overall too. So that is how it has to be. They all should have separate tin numbers.
Okay. Now, one of the other things that's confusing people is, for example, of course, when I came to you, I got it the same day. And it looks like a very simple process for me. Yeah. And would this be the case? The question I want to ask is,
no, without allowing you to finish, that's what I'm going to tell you. As far as possible,
yes,
GRA aims at making it very convenient for the people who come forth to register. And as far as possible, if they could have it in a day, so be it. And that is our best bet. That we want people to have it same day. But if they are unable to have it same day and the next day or maximum 2 days thereafter, so be it. But our objective is that the tin registration is done in a comfort that gets people excited. That GRA is in for them. It's for their good.
Okay, can I register with just my digital address?
Within the registration, the digital address is part of the slot.
Can my digital address be a form of ID?
But your digital address, but if you are there today in about a month's time, you are not there. Your digital address can be your ID.
It cannot be.
How can it be your ID?
Okay,
I mean, you are staying in one place that you give us that digital address, and in a matter of 2-3 months, you move out. I mean, the issue is your identification.
Beyond the things that I'll be disabled from accessing if I don't have the tax identification number, what will be the benefits to me of having this tax identification number?
Having the tax, it will allow you to be able to secure a passport, to allow you to have a driving license, to allow you to register your property, to allow you to access the courts and take advantage of them. You have dealings with the municipalities and district assemblies. It will allow you to have good dealings with the ministry, departments, and agencies. I mean, it gives you a lot of access. I mean, which you wouldn't have if you do not have the TIN numbers.
Okay, there's one more point that I need to explore in this particular case, and that is directly to do with what is the hope that how many Ghanaians are we hopefully going to have on this particular identification number list? Are we going to have 20 million, 25, or all adults will possess same? Is that your plan?
Our objective is that every potential taxpayer will be in the GRA database. Because the strength of any tax administration is in the capacity to identify the taxpayer. That's what we are aiming at. So I can't give you numbers, but then our vision and our objective is huge.
Okay, now there are 2 more questions that will be important at this particular point in time. I am a contractor. I've already started doing business with government. I've gotten a contract. I am due for payment. Would I require what they call it, the tax identification number now before the payment is done? Mindful of the fact that I got a contract without having to go through with the tax identification number.
You are already having a dealing with them. Okay. To the extent that you are already having a dealing with them, we will not be doing anything that with a retrospective effect. I don't think that is the object.
Okay.
But then it will serve you right if you are a contractor to secure a TIN number. A contractor means that you are doing transactions in volumes. And I mean, how can you visualize the situation? Somebody who's been having a dealing and having a project costing over 100,000, and yet we didn't want to have a TIN. Why?
How many?
I mean, I'm confounded.
Okay, how many officers do you have who are available to help people go through this identification TIN acquisition process?
The officers of the GRA in the various offices. This is of priority. And for now, we are pushing them to do a taxpayer identification number registration as far as possible. Within the various offices at the GRA, we have the classification as the taxpayer services, the audit group, and the debt management. And we are having biasing the staff to try and concentrate on getting the numbers done for us.
By the end of the year, how many people do you hope to have registered?
Raymond, you know I'm a statistician.
Yeah, I know.
But when I'm dealing with you people, I'm careful. I believe we will up the numbers, but I'm not going to give you any number.
1 million?
I said somewhere along the line that within the first 1 year and a little over the 1 year, we want to be able to, we are counting on generating an equivalent number to what we have now.
Okay.
In about a year. That's our immediate.
That's like 2 million.
So that we move to about 2 million
okay.
at a minimum.
Well, forgive me, but thank you so much for joining us today. And we hope we've gotten the message very clear. I have my tax identification number. Hopefully, if
because I supported you to have it.
Yeah, because I was frustrated in the process.
No, you weren't frustrated in the past.
200 CD from the pot for me because of that.
No.
Anyway, but thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you very much.
Well, folk, the very first part of our conversation here today has come to an end, and my guest has been the Commissioner General of the JRA in the very person of Emmanuel Kofi Nti. We'll be back soon.